Everyone, welcome back. Okay, so we've been at steady flow processes for a while, so let's add some to that, some unsteady flow processes. Now, many things that we're dealing with are steady flow processes, turbines, compressors, the like. But there's also a lot that aren't steady, and we need to learn how to deal with them. And so this might be where the control volume changes with time, or what's inside of your control volume changes with time. So anything where we have changing with time is an unsteady flow or transient flow process. Now, luckily we can simplify this a little bit. So what we're going to introduce for this, and we're going to use most of the time, is a uniform flow process. What is that? Well, a uniform flow process simply says that at my inlets or exits, what's happening there is uniform and steady, okay? That's uniform and steady. But what's happening in my control volume is not necessarily uniform or steady. It might make more sense if I were to draw this, so I'll kind of just try to explain. We'll be just an example in just a moment. So if I have, well, let's go with the bathtub. So the bathtub is empty to begin with. I have water, it's flowing into the bathtub. The bathtub is filling up with water. So the bathtub is my control volume. The bathtub changes with time. But what I'm looking at is if I look just at that pipe, I'm going to say that the water going in through that pipe is going to be the same the entire time. Now, if you've taken fluid mechanics, what you realize is that the properties of a fluid flow, like the velocity, changes as you go from the top to the center to the bottom of a pipe. We're just going to average those so we can pretend like that is just a nice uniform flow. And with average properties, it works out just fine. What's that let us do? Avoid integrals, which I want to do as much as possible in this course. Okay, so here's some examples of unsteady flow processes. So in one case, I've got a supply line right here, and I've got some sort of control volume. Where in the world would I see something like this? Well, if you like to grill, you probably have. When you are grilling, you're using a kerosene gas tank, and at some point that is being filled by a supply line like this. Okay, it's not like some long magical supply line that connects all of the gas stations in the world, but when they're recharging them, they have a supply line that's at a particular pressure. They have a control volume that is, your kerosene tank that's been depleted, and they add the kerosene into it. Other ones, well, if we have a fluid flow that moves into a control volume, that control volume's boundary changes, like in a piston, that's also an unsteady flow process, but the flow going in can be uniform, just like the flow going in here can be uniform. Okay, so with that being said, let's look at the equations. Now, nothing's going to change here too much. So for mass balance, it's simply what we've seen many times for conservation of mass. Since it's unsteady, this guy is no longer zero. It will change. That's cool. Another way I can think about this is rather than the difference between my mass flow in or out, is simply say that my change mass of my system is equal to my final mass minus my initial mass. And I can connect those two together to figure out what's going on. I want to write it a little more fancy way I could do it this way. Okay, how about energy balance? Well, my energy in minus my energy out is equal to the change in energy of my system. Now, there's a lot of different types of energy. I'm not going to write them all out here. So at its basest, it might look something like this. You're like, whoa, that's a lot of stuff. It does seem like a lot of stuff, but it's not terrible. All I'm saying is that my heat in minus my work out is going to be equal to my change in energy in my system. Well, what is that change? Well, it's the difference between my internal energy at the end and the beginning, and also it's the difference between any energy that's flowing out and energy that's flowing in. That's going to be the change in energy in my system. And if you're wondering what the Q and the W are, just so you know, it's work out and net heat in. Okay, so two last little examples, things we can look at here. So when all my inlets and outlets are closed, I go from being a uniform flow system to a closed system, which hopefully makes sense. And last thing here is that a uniform flow system can involve work of various types, and you would need to take all those into account when you're doing your problems. Well, that's it for this time. Next time we'll be doing an example. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. See you soon. Bye-bye.